First, let me thank you all for coming out on this beautiful November night, and actually coming in here rather than going to the beer garden outside. So, great appreciation for that. My name is David Slocum. I'm the faculty director of the Berlin School Executive MBA program, and as I think most of you know, the MBA program is in the midst of its residency here in New York, and we need to thank, yet again, our wonderful hosts here at the Miami Ad School, and just want to ask us to give a hand to Eddie and Zarema, who have done so. It's my pleasure on behalf of Michael Conrad, the president of the Berlin School, as well as the entire organization, to welcome you here tonight. I'm pleased that we have, in addition to those participants, those 34 participants of the current residency, we have distinguished alumni, Sunil Radia, who just gave a master class. We also have very, very recent, not even fully minted alumni. I know Uli Rees is here. He just successfully defended his MBA thesis. So it's always a pleasure wherever we are in the world to bring the family together and Berliners together wherever they are, even here in New York. The Berlin School thrives. Tonight we have a special thrill and privilege and opportunity to hear from someone that I see as one of the genuine thought leaders in marketing and communications today. I actually hate that term of thought leadership and have deconstructed it in various places in various ways. But for a select few people, I think that it is appropriate, and certainly Faris Yakob is one, both in terms of his ideas, his actions and behaviors professionally, and his ongoing writing and social media presence. I think we're privileged to have him here tonight. I think many of you will know, and if you don't know it, you should, his book, which came out earlier this year, Paid Attention. I get no special royalty from showing this, but it really is, as someone who regularly recommends books that help creative leaders become better, it is very high on that list for this year. I want to turn things over to Faris, and in doing so, just to introduce him, he is already very experienced in the advertising, communication, and marketing industry. He was the Chief Innovation Officer at NBC Partners. He was an Executive Vice President here in New York at McCann Erickson. Currently, he is the co-founder with Rosie Yakob of Genius Steals, which is a strategy and innovation consultancy, and one that, again, I think in its consulting is in fact trying to put into practice a lot of the thought leadership that he is in fact regularly giving voice to, and that he's going to share with us tonight. So I'd like to ask you all to join me in welcoming and thanking Faris Yakob.
A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, there was nothing but a man on a mission to work out how to communicate in a networked world, how to use what we know to discover what we don't yet know, how to bring culture, commerce, and technology together to create a future for brands, and get the President's Prize from the IPA in the process. A bizarre coagulation of Colin Farrell, Russell Brand, Hugh Jackman, Eddie Izzard, and Adam Duritz come together to play the same man, Faris Yakob, in Genius Steals. His story will touch you, even though he can't.
This tagline was stolen from Edwards' hands.
That's a trailer about me and our company. That's funny, isn't it? In my defense, whilst I am incredibly vain, obviously, because I'm standing on a podium talking to you about stuff I thought up or whatever, I'm quite vain. I'm not vain enough to cut myself a trailer of that nature, and I couldn't do it anyway. An agency made it for me as a gift. If you want to give people a nomadic and really vain gifts, you make them trailers. That's how that works. Like little tchotchkes aren't that useful for me. I don't live anywhere. I have no shelves to put them on, and make a trailer about how awesome I am and science fiction. Oh, I love that. That's great. Where are we? Not very far yet. Okay. Oh, this is hello. Hello. This is the hello slide, everybody. Hello. How are you?
Hi, I'm well.
Okay, great. That's good to know. Hello. Hello. How are you?
Yeah.
Not great. A bit ill. Everyone back there. Good. All right. Good. Hello. This is supposed to warm you up. You see, it's designed to be a friendly-looking slide. The font is friendly. It's sloping forward to give a sense of progress. I think of this stuff. You see, it's all semiotics. Everyone good so far? Yeah? Yeah, great. How was Halloween in New York? Was that fun? Did you enjoy yourselves? Halloween's mental in New York, isn't it? Especially the confluence of Halloween and an unseasonably warm late summer is a remarkable thing for New York because the slutty costumes become very, very slutty. That's good. I now, without looking, can look at my wife's face and go, Faris, wait, I think they're filming this, Faris. And I'm like, there she is. I can see it. Faris, they're filming this, you know. This is going to be useful. Don't just ramble on. All right. Okay, hang on. I wrote this book. It's called Paid Attention. It's about paying attention and buying it and stuff. You see, that's the joke. Do you get it? If you don't get it, no one's going to. The idea being, we spend a lot of money buying attention, and we're not sure if the attention that we buy is being paid attention to. I say joke. I mean, it's not quite the right word, is it? Anyway, it's about things I think about in advertising and ideas and media and stuff. We'll get to it, some of it. Oh yeah, okay. Where did it all start? So one of the things that you'll come to understand is I don't believe ideas come from nowhere. I believe they always have sources and inspiration and attribution. And I know exactly the moment when I had the idea for this book. It's funny. I'd had the ideas in this book previously, but the idea for this book, Paid Attention, happened at a specific moment. My wife was getting a manicure, and I was in Nashville. I was reading a magazine, and I was sitting outside, and I read a bit by this guy.
What I think is interesting about the term misdirection is that it's a misnomer. Most people think it means, look at this hand, why do something with this one? But actually, what I want to do is direct and control your attention, at least know where it is. Because if I send your attention off into the darkness, it can come around just like throwing a boomerang and hit me when I don't want it to. So I like to think of it as managing attention. Because control is a hard word, but I manage the attention kind of like water flow. And I see where it goes, and then I have to move with that.
So that's a dude called Apollo Robbins. It's quite a good name. And he's a deception specialist, according to Nat Geo. That's the little thing there. I think we call them magicians more traditionally, but you know, deception specialist will do. And he says this thing, and he says it quite a lot actually. Now, it says attention is like water. And I read this. And it did that thing where your brain like pulls things together for a second, right? It just like freeze frames this network diagram in your brain of like, wait a second. Suddenly, lots of things I've been thinking about seem to fit together into a narrative, and I had this idea, and then it kind of came out. Which was that attention is a thing. And it occurred to me it's quite an important thing. Like, it's the foundational thing in advertising. It's the thing, right? In all models of communication theory, both sides of they involve attention. It presupposes itself. So the oldest and most adhered to model of advertising and communication is called ADA. It starts with attention, not awareness. That comes later with Dagmar, but never mind. ADA, attention, interest, decision, action. That's the communication model, right? If you work in media, attention is the thing we buy and sell. That's the thing. It's how we fill the funnel, right? So I was thinking about attention and how it might be quite important, but maybe it was complicated. Most things, if you look into them, are more complex than they would appear. The urge for simplicity, while very satisfying if you're a physicist, is not super useful when discussing human behavior, which is non-simple. So remember that when you get simple, trite answers to complex questions about behavior. It's just like this, really. I have no idea is the correct answer to that question. Oh, this is good. Who knows who this is? Go on. Anyone? No, the actor. I mean the actor. It's an age game. Marlon Brando, really? Just the one of you? Great. Two of you, great. So, on Saturday, I discovered that I was old, and it was a weird feeling. Because, I mean, I kind of knew that I was getting older. It was an obvious thing. It had been happening for some time, and like I kept getting older and stuff. And on Saturday, I went to a fancy dress party dressed as a character called He-Man. He-Man was a very, very famous character in the 1980s. I mean, not just famous, but like, it was on, you could assume cultural ubiquity of He-Man, right? You could assume that everybody, whether or not they watched He-Man, would be aware of He-Man, right? And I went out and not a single person had any idea who He-Man was. And it was so interesting. I was like, oh, I didn't think that was a choice you got to have. I didn't know you were allowed to not know who He-Man was. It's like not knowing who a Spice Girl is or something. Like, how have you avoided He-Man? Turns out it's easy now, I'm old. For a lot of people, Marlon Brando was super famous, and for most people now, he is just not. It's weird. Anyway, this bit's good.
Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears!
So that was Brando doing a bit from Shakespeare's Julius Caesar. He's being Mark Antony, and he wants to convince a bunch of people something. He says, friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. I really like this line, right? Because it encodes this thought that's really important, that you have something, your ears, metonymically, but your attention appropriately, and I want it. I would like you to give it to me, right? And when I ask you for it, it's not free. Lend me your ears. A, you get it back at the end, but not when I'm using it, and B, it's worth something. It has value. And if I can aggregate up all your attention to a really, like millions and millions, I'm a medium and I can sell ads on it, right? Imagine that, this huge talk and just ads behind me. Like, that'd be weird, wouldn't it? Anyway, so it has value and we encode this idea. We know attention is valuable. The art of rhetoric was fundamentally born in the Roman Forum, right? Because you had to attract large amounts of attention in very noisy spaces. You had to harness that attention. You had to convince people to do things like stab people a lot for you. And then you could be in charge of stuff, right? But if you couldn't A, get the attention, B, hold the attention, and C, make them do the stabbing, you weren't going to be Caesar. And that's kind of our job too, right? Grab the attention, hold the attention, make them do this, well, not the stabbing part, but other stuff, right? Like buying things, mostly. Less stabbing. It occurred to me then that attention perhaps is a complex idea, and I'm fond of complex ideas. Because attention, despite being the foundational idea of advertising, of communications, of media, you could argue everything now. You could argue that attention is the most valuable resource left in the world. Oil is declining and dropping in value at the same time, which is a remarkable situation to be in. There's less of it and it's worth less. Oh dear. But attention is finite and it powers Google and Facebook and all kinds of good stuff. So, and there's a lot of it about, right? But what do we know about it? And the answer is not very much. I'll just give you the answer to this. Very little is the answer, almost nothing. There's a reason for this. Science is hard, is basically the reason. And in order for science to work, it requires objective things you can look at, right? In order for science to be science, it has to be observable and replicable. That's the nature of empiricism. And so what happens is, you do a thing, like drop something, and then it drops, and you measure it, and you realize it always drops at the same speed, and you find gravity. Brilliant. With attention, it's an inherently subjective experience of reality. It's how you focus your consciousness, or how you choose to, or not. And because of that, it's part of the biggest single problem in science and human experience, which is we don't know what consciousness is or how to describe it. We can't examine it under the microscope. We can't tell you what it's made of. It's an emergent property that we do not understand, and attention is part of that, and attention is the feeder input of advertising. So I'm like, this whole industry is based around understanding something we do not understand. That's complicated, isn't it? But on the plus side, because it can only be experienced subjectively, you all can now do some experiments with me into attention and how it works. Hooray! Don't worry, it's not hard, don't worry, it'll be fun. What do we know, what can we know of attention? How can we understand it subjectively, right? So, first of all, I am messing with your attention right now, right? See? So hopefully, by standing up here with a microphone and by gesticulating and modulating my voice and saying things quite fast and being British and, you know, saying things that are pseudo-interesting when you think about them and then later you're like, what was that? No idea. That's how I'm actively trying to hold your attention, right? I'm trying to modulate my behavior to hold your attention. If I'm boring and you're looking at your phone tweeting, I lose. The only game here is me not losing your attention, right? If I can't, because like, remember it's a three-part thing. I can't in theory, if I could impart knowledge, I'm not saying I'm doing that, but in theory, if I could, it would be irrelevant if I couldn't get attention first. I couldn't get it in, right? So when I put that arrow up on the screen, your brain starts pulling itself away from me towards the arrow because your brain loves arrows. It's been trained to think arrows mean attention, mean pay that way. So now you've got this choice. You're splitting your attention into parts between me and the arrow. It's complicated. So you now know two things. One, attention is directional. It can either be directed at me or at the arrow, or at both, but in some way less, kind of, right? And it's consciously controllable. You choose to pay attention to me. You choose to ignore me to some degree. However, when that happens, you then realize something else about attention. It's not entirely under your control, because it evolved for a reason, and that reason mostly is to keep you safe, primarily-ish. And if you hear an alarm or an explosion or people screaming, you can't not pay attention to that. Your brain switches out. It goes, what's that? So you know it's directional, you know it's controllable, but you also know it can be snatched away from you. And you know that you live in the world. And everything in the world right now, its job is to try and snatch your attention away from you, to grab it. What else do we know about attention? Well, we know it has duration, let's say. We know it has a normative duration. We can infer that from the fact that attention deficit disorder is a thing. And whether or not you believe it's overdiagnosed in America is irrelevant. It's a thing, and the fact that it's a thing suggests to us there must be a normative duration of attention. Otherwise, the idea of a deficit thereof makes zero sense. So there must be a certain amount of attention. This much is a good amount, and this is a small deficit. Imagine you could have surplus attention. You could have attention surplus disorder. You never get bored. You're just constantly like, it's the most amazing thing ever. This is great. I've not encountered it, but it could be cool. So it has a duration. We know that. What else do we know? What else? Oh, okay. Look. So it has a capacity. That's one. It's a number. You're very familiar with numbers, I imagine. Ones. Yeah. Good. Here's another number. This is the area code in Columbus, Ohio, I think. Yeah? Anyone? Seattle. Great, good job, thank you. I try and change it, but whatever. So this is a number, this is three numbers, not one. It's harder for your brain to hold three numbers than it is one number, unless you can do what's called chunking them, which makes the three into one. So if you're from Seattle, thank you, that's one number, because you chunked it, and if it's not, it's not. So far, so good? Right. But you can't keep doing it indefinitely. If I asked you to close all your eyes and remember 206, you would probably mostly get it right, give or take, right? However, if I said close your eyes and look at this set of numbers, and then tell me what they are, your brain could not do it. It's beyond what's called it's called Miller's law, I think. It's the threshold of attention. Plus, it's like 7 plus or minus 2, so between 6 and 9, kind of, is the amount of things your brain can hold in its operating memory. There are exceptions. If you have autism, for example, you don't have that problem. I learnt this at a gig in Columbus, Ohio, which could be why I was thinking of Columbus. We did this thing, and the next day someone emailed us with this exact stream of digits. And either they took a picture of it, which is cheating, or they're autistic, which is cheating, so it doesn't matter. Anyway, it's finite. You can't put everything into it. You can only put some stuff into it, and then that's a factor of it. Again, that's a condition of attention. Here's a good one. Everyone do this. Everyone, look at your thumbnail, look at your thumb. Hooray, Faris. Right, so everything outside your thumbnail you can't see properly. You just think you can. I know, it's weird, right? So this bit of your vision is called the focal center of your vision. It's about this big, roughly. Everything out of that center, you cannot read it. So, like, you can't read that in your peripheral vision, you just think you can. When you read, you scan your focal center across the text like this. And outside that you can't. Basically your brain filters out everything else, super low resolution, like it's super low res out here. However, it doesn't feel that way, does it? When you look at me and look at that, you still think the world isn't normal res, right? Normal viewing res is the same everywhere, except when you're drunk or whatever. So, what happens is, and it's one of my favorite things to say, your brain doesn't like the idea that it's not seeing stuff. It realizes that it makes you feel weird and uncomfortable to not see things in full resolution, so it fakes it. It's called the fabulation of verisimilitude. It's one of my favorite things to say, actually. Because your brain is making up the idea that reality is the way you think reality is, to make you feel comfortable with it. Because it's like, it's not, but it knows you'd freak out otherwise. So it's like, shh, it's okay. I love this idea. It's like I'm being placated by my brain. It's like, it's all fine, don't worry about it. What's happening over there? Nothing at all. It's fine. But it also means that anything you see outside of this center, you're seeing in very low resolution. And sometimes it's okay, and sometimes it's not, anything.
Your attentional spotlight is only the size of your thumbnail, 1/1000th of your field of view. That means if I can see where your eye motion is, I can now navigate around that and do certain things. Plus, because you have to make choices between all your senses, your vision, your hearing, all those are coming into one spot. If I can tap into your priority system, I can now start hacking to reprioritize certain things so that other things will go under the radar. And that's a very interesting way to take advantage of attention.
Yeah. So he repeated what I just said, which was great, but he also established the fifth or sixth thing we now know about it. It's a priority-based system. It's finite, it has duration and capacity and shape and size, and it makes decisions for you. And it makes very important decisions for you. Like, I currently am seeing some flashing lights on the screen over there, and for a second, my brain was like, could be important, check it out. And then it wasn't, right? So I stopped looking at it. But that's what your brain is doing all the time. It's making these very, very important priority decisions about how to filter reality for you. And because it's finite, if you do things up here and distract it, you can do tricks, basically is what he's saying. He can make you not be aware of things by making you more aware of things over here. So we know quite a lot of things about attention, kind of, but it's still tricky. Because it's a priority system, and because I can not misdirect, but actually direct your attention in certain ways, I can use that to expose the holes in how you see and think. Shall we do that? Shall we? What do you think? Yes. Hooray! Good, thanks, Morgan. Now, you can watch this and we'll discuss it.
This is an awareness test. How many passes does the team in white make?
Go!
The answer is 13. But did you see the moonwalking bear?
Yeah. See? So that's actually generally a good thing to do. Look out for cyclists. I like cycling, and I think we should do that. That was an advertisement made about 10 years ago by an agency called WCRS in London for cycling awareness. But it's based, and I say based on, but I mean directly ripped off from, a psychology experiment where it's a gorilla instead of a bear, but otherwise it's the same shtick. And what it goes to show is that your priority-based attention system is not just finite. When it fills up, everything else gets, just, you don't see it, it just vanishes away, right? Like, the tracking studies of this are really important. It's not that you don't notice it. Your eyes look directly at the moonwalking bear or gorilla. It's just not in your priorities, so you don't choose to pay attention to it. And that's the thing, right? Paying attention is a choice, but not one that you always get to make. Some system is making it. That's not you. But it is you, really. All right, so what is attention? What is it really? Well, we don't know, and we never will, because it's complicated and subjective, but you can get a sense of how it operates from its size, shape, duration, and function, right? We know that when alarms go off, we pay attention to them. We know that faces that we recognize are more memorable than others. We know that the birthday party effect exists, where if you say someone's name across a room that's really noisy, they'll hear their name, because they love their name more than anything else in the world, which is true. It's because, basically, attention, as we understand it, is some kind of pattern recognition system, right? It's a system which allows you to recognize patterns and deviation from pattern. Because our brains love certain kinds of patterns, you're all seeing the same set of patterns in this imagery, right? This is noise data. This is not faces, but you're seeing faces. Every single time you're seeing faces, right? That's called pareidolia. Pareidolia means your brain's ability to create patterns out of noise data, because your brain loves patterns so much, And because evolutionarily speaking, it makes more sense to be overcautious about bears appearing than undercautious, because undercautious is dead, right? So you would overcautious. When a face appears that might be a bear, you trigger the yes part of your brain pattern rather than the no, right? So you see faces. And pareidolia is very interesting, and it can be pathological, but everyone does it, you know. So it feels like what's happening is your brain is trying to keep you safe, partially, and your brain is trying to efficiently navigate reality, right? Efficiently is important because your brain has very finite cognitive resources. Your brain is very, very, very energy efficient. It takes up 20 to 24% of your body's oxygen and energy, but it makes up 4% of the body mass. It hugely overconsumes energy based on your body. And because of that, efficiency is super important. Because of that, shortcuts are important, like heuristics. So your brain starts out with a blank model of the world, and then it fills things in. It goes, well, what happened then? Oh, it dropped. All right, so maybe dropping's the thing that happens. And after 10 or so drops, you stop thinking about drops. You just go, oh, things drop. I now know this. It's in my model. So your brain requires the pattern of things always dropping to establish a set of rules. And then, when it sees those rules not being obeyed, it realizes its model is not quite right, and it optimizes it by going, hang on a second, stop, pay attention. If I drop this, it didn't drop, which would be a great trick if I could ever do it, but I cannot. It'd be cool, right? If I did that and it suddenly hung in the air, you'd be like, what? Because it's not what you expected to happen. It's disrupting expectation, and that disruption triggers attention and memory formation and all that kind of good stuff. So, I told you that would happen. I did. So advertisers, through kind of like intuition and exploration and producing bazillions of things over time, have developed a kind of intuition for how attention works, right? So this is a great example. It's a really old advertisement. I'm very fond of it. It's very what we would think of as unsophisticated because it's so obvious in how it's trying to achieve what it's trying to achieve. When I was a younger planner, we'd say things like, your strategy is showing to the creative. Like, it's too obvious to try to convince someone to do something, right? You've got to be less obvious. Not in the 50s. In the 50s, it was like, buy this, it's great. Like this ad.
And is new zest fine for me? New? Zest isn't new. This zest is, see, improved, and mild enough even for your delicate skin.
New improved zest. New soft aqua color. New soft fragrance. Smells mild. Zest is mild. So mild, even delicate skin can dare to feel really clean. Clean, fresh, the way Zest makes you feel.
So I love that ad. Did you get a sense that this product, Zest, is both mild and clean? Did you get a sense of that at all? Even if you don't think you were convinced by that because it sounds so silly, you were. That's called the mere exposure effect. So your brain likes being exposed to things that don't kill it because it didn't die. So it makes sense to not hate things, right? So it's called the mere exposure effect. What it means is, if I see Zest in any way, advertising, on packaging, in someone's hand, in someone's house, and no one dies immediately after me seeing Zest, right? My brain goes, no one died. No one died. And they think that's good, right? Your brain goes, well, next time I see that Zest thing and no one dies, I'll try and keep inferring a lack of death, right? But a lack of death is a really strong positive signal. A really strong positive signal in the absence of any other signals. So if I'm at the shelf in a supermarket and I see Zest, no death, Zest, remember, and I see, I don't know, Brillo pad, what's the soap brand? Dove, right. If I see if I see the moisturizing soap-like product, Dove, and I see Zest, and I've never heard of Dove, I will feel a slight preference for Zest because of the lack of deaths that preceded Zest previously, right? And it's true, that is basically what's happening. When you see these signifiers and you don't die, you begin to be slightly more interested in them or slightly less hating of them or whatever. But that's the least interesting thing they're doing there. I think that's great. But the thing I like they're doing is the thing that advertisers and packagers of consumer packaged goods worked out a long time ago. It is a beautiful piece of cognitive hacking. Because as I said, right, your brain, your attention system, is looking for the modulation and demodulation of patterns to keep you from dying a bit, right? So what you want, ideally, is things that are familiar enough to not kill you, like Zest, but new enough to be exciting, like Zest, right? Because like, Zest isn't new. This zest is. What does that mean? That's a nonsensical statement. That literally means nothing. And then they go, oh, it's okay, it's new and improved. I'm like, well, I mean, not to get all semantic-y and everything, but you can't both be new and improved. That's how those words work, right? New means new. Improved means formerly existed as now different. They're different when they can't mutually exist. They can't. But you don't think about it, do you? Because your brain's like, it's like brain crack. It's like, oh wait, this didn't kill me, but it's also exciting. It's the best thing ever, you know? And everyone knows that now in packaging, and so every piece of packaging in the world has new and improved on it. Even if the packaging is the only thing that's been improved. The only new thing is the packaging. New packaging. I'm like, how does that help me? I mean, what is that? I mean, that's stupid. New and improved is a good attention hack. So, attention. So the big sort of conceit, I guess, that attention is like water, the metaphor that I guess, simile, anyway. The feeling I got from attention is like water is that there's this thing in the world, and we make it, it comes from us, but individually we're not really part of it, and it's like this thing, and it has weight, and it has force, and it can move mountains, and smash apart trees, and change the world, and we can direct it a bit sometimes, with dams or whatever. It's a very horrible metaphor, it's been protracted out to death. But then, when culture fragmented and media fragmented and everybody started making vines or whatever, suddenly there was just lots of content in the world and less attention, right? And the attention economy idea was mooted about 10 years ago in Wired, and it made a lot more sense recently, I think, right? The attention is more scarce than media is. So it has value. We know it has value because we buy and sell it all the time. That's what media is, and we'll get to the media slide in a second. It's after this. But this guy that wrote the opposite of my book. I really like it, but it's the opposite of it. It's like, I think people are trying to steal your attention. You should be on guard about that. And I'm like, yes, we are. That's right. That's what my book is about, how to steal it better. Kind of. But it's like every time you see a tiny little, what's the bit he talks about? Oh yeah, the Zappos sponsorship of the TSA trays. That really annoys him. Makes him really, really angry. And I'm like, I can see that, it's annoying, kind of, but you get used to it, because there's ads everywhere, right? He's like, yeah, but attention's all we have. That's what we have to live through. Your attention is literally the finite resource that is your life, day by day. And we give it up in tiny, tiny increments, and at the end of the day, it's all gone, there's none left for us. And I think that's it's a sage point, it's worth considering. On the flip side of this, oh yeah, that's nice. Appropriations, capture and hold. On the flip side of this problem is another problem. Okay, so I used to work in media a long time ago, and in order to understand media planning and buying and sales, you have to understand that you need a currency to buy and sell something, right? You need to have a fungible currency, things that are self-similar that you can match against different things, right? So we, in old media, invented a thing called the impression. And the impression was this idea, which is like, well, what can I sell? I sell attention. I sell reaching people in some way. Okay, well, how do I measure that? Well, I'm like, well, let's say I'm reading a newspaper, and I look at your ad. You got me. Something happened there that I want to sell, basically. And we opted, as an industry, to call that an impression. An impression was one set of eyeballs on a brand message once, let's say. And that was fine. It's very rule of thumb. It's very blurry as a metric, right? Because it works in different ways and you can't really measure it. No one knows who's watching the ads during television programs. No one knows if anybody's seen the ad in the magazine they bought. No one knows, but within a 0 to 100% of the circulation, you've got a sense of statistically standard deviation of reach, whatever it is, right? Then, when the internet happened, there was this really, really small but very important change that happened in what an impression was. It went from being one person seeing a thing to one ad being served from a server to a browser once. It doesn't seem that different, right? A person looking at the internet consumes the internet, an ad is served to their browser. There was an obvious assumption that there'd be a person browsing through the browser. That's why they're called browsers, probably, right? And then that turned out to be not very true. Even not a bit true. So the first time this became obvious to me, but it should have been obvious a long time ago, is that when media companies gave up responsibility for their own advertising to ad-serving companies, to networks, they suddenly dismantled the operation of advertising. They made it a 3-part system from 2 parts. wasn't just church and state anymore, and us. It was the guys that got things there and then told you it was there and stuff, right? When you used to buy media in the New York Times, you did it because of the reach, the audience, no doubt, but you also did it because it had a certain kind of resonance, a certain kind of environment that seemed appropriate. That was part of the added value of media. And networks removed that idea entirely. But they paid for everything. The IAB is very important for that reason. The web was a wasteland. Internet advertising, like all advertising, seems to need scale, and scale requires units, and units requires etc. The problem with internet stuff, as you all obviously know, is that technologists are pretty much a lot smarter than we are, and then after technologists, finance dudes are really smart as well, and both of those dudes decided that we were quite a good thing to get involved with, and so this happens. Now, before I get into the fraud bit, which is ad blocking and fraud and all that kind of good stuff, right? That's the high frequency trading bit of it, right? That's fine. That's messy and gubbins, it'll go away eventually. But this bit weirds me out. Being an old school media planner from like the pre-digital age, or having been, you look at numbers and you go, okay, Comscore said, this is the last number, by the way, last year I can get these data from. But since 2012, there's no way to get this data anymore because no one has any idea. But we can safely assume, I think, it hasn't gone down. Comscore says 5.3 trillion ads are shown in 2012. Now, by ads, they mean things are served, not impressions, kind of, not ads, but whatever. But whenever you see numbers like this, we should probably maybe, just for a second, give pause, right? There's 320-ish million people in America. This is just in America. In 2012, not everybody was online. Now, trillions are a really big number, you guys. Like, trillions are a really, really big number. Like billions, huge number. Trillions are thousands of billions. So this number, when I first saw it, I was like, how does that make it? Who is seeing all these ads? How are they, where are they? Because trillions is thousands of billions, which is like, there's only 300 billion people, and most of them, not all of them are online. So they're seeing, what, literally hundreds of thousands of ads? How can that be? That doesn't make any sense. And it turns out, of course, it doesn't make any sense. Because half of them don't really exist. Oh no, sorry, half of them aren't viewable. Not viewable, whatever version of that. See, when you get into arguments about viewability, you know everything's a bit broken, right? What does viewable mean? I mean, it means can you see it or not? That's obvious, isn't it? No, it is not. It's not though, and I understand it's not. Is it 2 seconds or 5 seconds? Did they see it or not? And then ad blocking is a thing now, isn't it? Like, it's apparently a problem because, and let's be honest, this is partially our fault. I saw a thing today. In order to load an article from The Atlantic on your phone, it would require 15 floppy disks from the old 3.5-inch days, because so much gubbins goes along with the data. And I was like, floppy disks, eh? And then you get like publishers going, hey everybody, I can see you're blocking us and stuff. We know we annoyed you. Would you mind just letting us have some money? Now, I suspect, I don't know, but I'm not, you know, if this is your business strategy, begging, right, that's fine. It's not a problem. Brainpicker does really well doing that. But you need to have a very strong relationship. I'm not sure that mass media companies can do it. Please, please, give us some money. No. Anyway, it's problematic because what happened was attention, which is a very complex idea, got turned into a very simple binary fungible idea of being impressions, and that idea got changed to a new idea, and suddenly we had more impressions than all the people in the world by 1 billion times, and everything got a bit weird, basically. So that was fun. Oh yeah, but then, so, do you remember like 5-6 years ago, pop-ups were really annoying, right? 7 years ago, pop-ups were a thing. They were like, that's annoying, don't like those. They now exist on phones quite a lot. You may have encountered them on Fortune's website. That really annoys me. What even more disturbingly seems to be happening is that people who grow up on those media, the screeny media that doesn't respond the way we think it should to other things, they grow up with because we tend to maybe over-aggressively use those spaces, try and monetize digital inventory in a way that we probably shouldn't, with tracking and whatnot, it seems to be causing reverse problems, right? On TV, watching TV in America, it's obviously quite annoying. Everyone who's been not in America, right? Who's been not in America here before? Hands up. Really? No. Okay, good. Have you watched any television not in America before? Yeah. Is it, despite the language barrier, is it less annoying than watch TV in America? Yes, it is, right? The commercial mintage in America is like 4 ad breaks per half hour, 21 minutes. So it's like 2/3 of content, maybe. What seems to be happening, though, in the world outside of America, potentially, is that people growing up on these ads that are so annoying and being given the technical ability to turn them off, without understanding the value exchange that made this possible, the reason there are ads is because the content is free, and understanding that's a real gift that we give you. Ungrateful. As Homer Simpson once said, no, we have to watch the ads. If you don't watch the ads, it's like you're stealing TV. And it's true. You are. But they grew up in a world where that value contract was not made obvious, where the internet was being annoying, and then they start getting rid of ads in Sao Paulo, Chennai, Grenoble, Paris, Tehran. You're like, hang on, that's not good. We like ads. That's bad for us. So anyway, attention is precious and valuable, and we should treat it as such, or they will turn us off. Attention collapse will happen. It's a Malthusian problem, right? It's the attention of the commons. We all took a little bit bite more than we should have had, a tiny little bite of the commons more than we had, and then all the grass was gone, and no more ads for us. That's the problem we face, or could face if we don't sort it out. Every discipline that emerges in the world claims territory. That's what happens with disciplines, right? When media carved off from advertising in 1992, the media center, suddenly there was two disciplines in advertising going, creative and media, and we have different points of view, and it's all healthy and stuff. So I'm not saying the future of branding I'm not saying, this is not me saying this is someone's blog post, right? But I don't think of user experience as the discipline. I mean, thinking about the experience of the user, more literally, right? Eventually, you have to assume they're going to have control, or more control than they even do now. And if they do, annoying them isn't going to necessarily work anymore. Like, it used to work really well. Annoying was a great strategy. It's a really good annoying, frequency-based annoying strategies are very effective in mass media that's like fixed bandwidth, right? Because of the exposure effect, you know? Zest, clean, mild, zest. Eventually you just go buy zest. You can say, I don't care anymore, leave me alone, whatever. I'll buy a fucking zest. Anyway, if you thought about the experience of the user of the medium, the publication, then we wouldn't do these things because it would offend us and be upsetting to us, and so. Anyway, that's what I mean by that. So, about 3 years ago, Rosie and I started the company. It's called Genius Steals. It was based on kind of trying to capitalize and efficiency, like monetize our experience in agencies, media, creative, digital. I set up a couple of companies, whatever, and we wondered how we could try and give better advice whilst also traveling the world. So we've been itinerant for about 140 weeks now. We've had clients in about 12, 15 countries. That's pretty fun. And it's all part of that, like, not being fundamentally biased towards a solution set, that whole stick of objectivity that we put together. I think that's good. Why is it called Genius Steals? Well,
it comes down to trying to expose yourself to the best things that humans have done, and then try to bring those things in to what you're doing. I mean, Picasso had a saying, he said, good artists copy, great artists steal. And we have, always been shameless about stealing great ideas.
So I stole that idea. But so the expression isn't really from Picasso, it just happens to be falsely attributed to him. I call them photations. Quotations that kind of just bubble up in culture and then are appended to smart people. He didn't say it. But the idea is strong, right? Because I've worked with creative people my entire career, pretty much, and one of the things we're interested in is demystifying the creative process, to equip our clients with the tools to have ideas rather than to give them the ideas themselves. Although we can do that too. We work at some of these places, agencies and brands and stuff like that. The normal stuff that people do, right? Agencies, brands. But like in lots of different places, we are very nimble in the sense that we will go to you anywhere, we don't care, it's always fun. But again, as I said, the idea is about creativity. Genius Steals is a thought about immersing yourself in the broadest set of influences possible and demystifying the process by which those sources become ideas that are valuable and productive for companies. Rather than hiding the process and exposing it at the end with the product, I'd rather do the process with clients. The model of creativity, I think, is fundamentally hampered by the idea that it is mysterious, that it is magical, that it is the function of the few, that only a few people can be creative. I think that is the biggest sort of like sleight of hand of the advertising industries in general. It's like, this thing we did, it's magical. And it's not really, is it? It's obviously not, because we do it all the time, repeatedly for money, so it clearly is, yeah. But the idea of creativity as that is enshrined in culture. So the idea of Athena being formed fully head from the mind of Zeus is this sort of model of creativity. Athena, the goddess of creativity, she pops out fully formed because that's how it feels to have an idea, right? The idea feels like it's just there, manifests itself, right? And we don't think that's true. We think it's about understanding how sources are better used. Because there's definitely something about using sources honestly and there's copying sources that's different, right? Part of the way the brain makes ideas appears to actively suppress the way in which it does it, which is interesting, right? There's a very common trait called cryptonesia, which means you have an idea, there's something you saw previously, and your brain presents it to you as the idea, but not as a memory. The memory is erased in the having of the idea. It happens all the time. Let me give you an example. So on the right is the quite famous Happy video by Pharrell and people. Wait, hang on, is that right or left? Would you say that right out of interest? My wife and I were discussing this. Which is that right or left? That's right, so okay, stay. All right, you're right. Fair enough. I know, right? I know, exactly. I always go with this. It's weird, isn't it? So, Girl Talk, Girl Walk video Kickstarter 2011. We happened to sponsor it, so we were into that kind of stuff. And then we saw this, we were like, seem familiar? A little bit. Look at the shirts are the same even. And I thought that's a bit odd. And maybe, maybe they were just inspired by it, let's say. But let's say really closely inspired, right? Like scene for scene, shot for shot inspiration in some cases, magically so. So that's all good. I'll stop that. But we were presenting at a conference in Chicago, and the creative director of that video was presenting. And we weren't there that day. We had someone in the audience ask her about the girl thing, and she said, I never saw it. I've never seen it. And I'm like, that's clearly not true. That's just a lie. Maybe your DOP saw it, but it doesn't happen that way by mistake, right? So we like to believe that it's a process, creativity, whatever it might be, and I imagine in your course you discuss this a lot because it's got the word in the whole title, right? I imagine the two things you discuss quite a lot are creative and leadership. I could be wrong. So creativity, it's a process. It's a way of thinking about the world. It's a way of taking something and making something else with that something, right? This is from Brain Picker, who I like a lot. This to me is the agency process, or the innovation process, or the process for getting from something else, right? Usually you've got a problem or a brief, you look at the stuff in the world, lots of stuff. And then from some of that stuff you find less stuff that's interesting, relevant, and you try and alchemically convert that stuff into an observation. Like from things that exist to things that I think about things exist, that's the planning process, that's the insight process, right? It isn't just a fact, it's a fact filtered through my specificness that's interesting. And then from that we distill ideas out, right? The idea is based on something, hopefully, and blah, blah. And the good thing about ideas, it's a recombinant process. So the more ideas you have, the more you can make. The maths of combinatorics are really fun and complicated. It means that from very small amounts of inputs, you can make infinite numbers of things. So, for example, the alphabet is very small amount of letters, 24, 36, 24, whatever. But you can make an infinite number of words with a very finite set of phonemes. Isn't that fun? Combinatorics, yeah. So ideas and new combinations, and it's a process. One of the fun ones. So this obviously isn't my idea. I don't have original ideas, no one does. But the earliest version of this I can see that I've read is John Locke, the English philosopher. He talks about this a lot. He wants to try and establish an epistemology of thought because he's very angry with the idea of God. And he says, well, God isn't real. So if God isn't real, what's putting all this stuff in my brain? And he comes up with the idea of the tabula rasa. Tabula rasa is the blank slate upon which your brain, the wax tablet, really, upon which your brain is impressing sensory stimuli. So you see things in the world, and it puts impressions in your brain, and you have those in there to use later. So he says there are different kinds of ideas, simple ideas and complex ones. Simple ones are ones you've seen. I see chair, I now know chair. I see horse, I now know horse. I see horn, I now know horn. The challenge being then, how does one have ideas that are not currently existing? And he goes, that's pretty simple, combinations, right? So you've seen horn, you've seen horse, your brain can invent unicorn pretty easily. It's just putting them together. That's his thought. And that kind of works for a lot of these things. It's a brief adjunct. I'm quite fond of this, though. People filter new experiences through their existing set of ideas. So the imprint on that tablet will dictate how they perceive the things you show them in the future, right? It's important to understand that. To give you an obvious example, when the first explorers went to India, following Marco Polo from Europe, they encountered this, the rhinoceros. And they thought, they thought it was the unicorn. They thought it was the mythical unicorn. They discovered the unicorn because it's like not quite a horse, but it's clearly an animal with a horn. Like, lost in translation, right? It's a unicorn. This is true though. This is why they thought it's still called Rhinoceros unicornis. It's because they thought they discovered actual unicorns. Then they came back and said, I found this animal. It's really exciting. It's a unicorn. It's like more like a big kind of pig thing with a nose, like Bebop in the Mutant Ninja Turtles. But it also wears armor, heavy armor. And they briefed Albrecht Dürer, a very famous artist, to do a design of it. And he drew it wearing actual armor. Look, actual armor. Because he didn't understand. Like, he didn't get what they meant. Like, because I've seen it. Oh, armor. All right. So there's that. So not to hammer on this point, but thinking appears to be the manufacturing of new combinations in your brain. If you put someone in a fMRI and do creativity tests and try and work out what their brain does when they have what they think is an idea, it appears to be two existing patterns firing at the same time and then connecting because they're firing at the same time. And that connection, if you know about like neurology, neuroscience, neurobiology, means that when you have that connection, you reinforce it, the neurons that fire together wire together, and so they rebuild the structure of the brain to create a new thing, we think. So let's explain all of that through jokes. I'm going to tell a joke, and then in the fun way that I do, dissect it philosophically and linguistically to make it really funny. And or kill it. Why did the Scarecrow win the Nobel Prize? Anyone? No? Okay, good. He was outstanding in his field. Right, isn't it, right? Now let's explain why that's funny. Because that's what fun looks like. Why did the Scarecrow win the Nobel Prize? Well, what we do here is establish a problem, a logical problem for your brain. We create two juxtaposed, non-adjacent domains of knowledge. Scarecrows, domain of knowledge, Scarecrow. Nobel Prize, domain of knowledge, Nobel Prize. There is no obvious literal way for your brain to connect those two together. So your brain is like, what is the answer to this? It's very annoying. The solution to this problem, in this instance, is linguistic. It's called paranomia. It's like, so by making one word mean many things, you can make the joke make sense. And that's the two components of creativity to me, right? You need to find a way to connect non-adjacent domains of knowledge in a way that's intellectually satisfying to the audience. If I just put a picture of a penguin and a picture of jam up or whatever and said, look, penguin jam, hooray! That's not creative, really. It's stupid. It's kind of creative in one way, but not in a useful, good way. It's just stupid. Because it can't just be two things, not just a combination. It has to be in a way that makes sense to your brain. If I can't find a pathway from Scarecrow to Nobel Prize, I don't have a joke. I just have penguin jam, I guess. So, that leads you to this. This is good, I think. We're almost done. How's it going, guys? Good? Bit tired. Yeah, no, I know. It's fine. Thank you for the reinforcement. Creative. What does creative mean, you guys? Do you discuss this a lot? Because I imagine you do. It's important to me. What does it mean? Any thoughts? Nah. Okay, good. Going well then, the course. Good job. No, but I don't not to put you on the spot. Well, I am on the spot, so why shouldn't you be? No, so... I work with creative people a lot, and I like to believe that creativity is a universal skill that human beings have, this brain pattern matching creation process. But in order for things to be usefully creative for us, and for a creative director to have a useful job, things must be more creative and less creative. That must be true, otherwise what they do is nonsense, and also what everybody does that sells ideas is nonsense, right? If that's true, some ideas are good and some ideas are less good, how do we gauge the goodness of those ideas? What does that mean? And there's two ways. Ignore this for now. There are two ways. Efficacy is one. In the ideas that we have and sell to clients, they usually use those ideas to make more money in some fashion, right? Sell widgets or whatever. If it makes lots of money efficiently, good idea. If it makes lots of money inefficiently, less good idea. If it loses money, bad idea. That's exactly that's those boxes. Efficiently, inefficiently, no, here. See, that's not. I'll get to that in a second. Bear with me. Upon which criterion can we gauge creativity in the absence of efficacy then? That's the question for all of us. I want to know, before I put an idea into production, before I make a widget or an ad or whatever, before I invest vast amounts of time, money, sweat, tears and pain in the creation of something and put it into the world to make money, well, how likely is it to work? More likely, less likely? And how do I gauge that? The answer is it's really, really, really complicated, if not impossible. But there is a criterion upon which I think we can establish creativity. Because what we're saying is, what I wrote up there, a bit easier, wouldn't it? Good. Caption. More creative ideas and non-obvious, non-trivial combinations. Because obvious combinations like, beer and bottle, anybody can have, and therefore they're not very creative, and I wouldn't pay someone to have them for me because that's easy, right? So that's in here. That's the boring box. I want to sell beer. What about a picture of a beer bottle with a bottle? I mean, yeah. I mean, that's not wrong. It's not off-brief, right? It's definitely in the area of the right idea, beer. But it's not good, obviously. If we go too far out of that area, we get the penguin jam out here. Penguin jam. And they're like, what? I want to sell beer though. Yes, penguin jam. That isn't helpful for us, I know. So that isn't the right idea. That's the wrong idea. That doesn't help the problem, right? It's not possible because you don't want to jam any penguins. And it also doesn't help. It's not useful. So at some point, the ideas go from being boring to being impossible, right? We accept this to be true, right? Okay. So at some point in that, there must be things that are better and worse. And it feels to me that the further away you get from the obvious, the better the ideas become, because we spent 50 or 60 or 100 years making ad-like ideas now, and everyone's seen fresh, mild claims of efficacy and refreshment and whatever. Everyone's seen that, and it's not interesting. Out here, penguin jam, again, not going to work. So we're looking for the least obvious, non-repetitive, boring ideas that are not terrible or fatal. That's what we're looking for. That's the criterion, I think. Does that all make sense? I used to be a planner and a creative director. I was trying to encapsulate my entire career as an advertising person in one diagram. This is what I think planning and creative does, basically. You write a brief, the client writes you a brief, you spend a lot of time here being annoying, spend most of your career making this sort of work, and about once or twice you occasionally make things that almost look like penguin jam, but aren't, and they're good. So I learnt this word recently, as in this week. It's a German word. I met a nice German guy earlier. He can help me pronounce it, because it sounds quite rude. The word is Fachidiot. Was that close? Anyone? German? Yeah? Yeah? Was? Yeah? That's good, yeah? Is that racist? I don't know. Anyway, the word is Fachidiot. Be careful when you say it, obviously. Fachidiot. Never mind. It means subject matter idiot. So in advertising especially, but a lot now, you get things called subject matter experts, where you've got a meeting, right? And you've got a normal meeting, but you've got to do a bit of internet at the end of it, or digital, or mobile, or whatever. And so you find the internet person at your company who's digital or mobile or whatever, and you go and get them and say, you've got a meeting, you've got to be in it. I'm like, why? I mean, they're like, why? And and they say, oh, it's an internet. I'm like, oh, internet. And you go into the meeting, you've got no idea what's going on with the client, or the brief, or the project, and you come in and you go, internet. They go, you're a moron, I hate you. And you're like, well, I know a lot about the internet though. They're like, yes, but that isn't that helpful. Always. The point being is that being really, 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 really expert in something very, very, very narrow, not necessarily internet, but something, the more expert you become, the more narrow your view becomes, the more obsessed you become with philately or moths or Star Wars, the less you spend time thinking about everything else. And then when you try and apply what you know about Star Wars and moths to the client problem at hand, I get this is maybe confusing, it isn't useful anymore because they're too obsessed with the moths and the internet protocol and the blah, blah, blah. So it's called a Fachidiot, subject matter. So I think this is really, I think PhDs are a really dangerous idea now, because PhDs are all brilliant at a thing that only 12 people in the world know how to understand, and that's challenging. So, in large-scale innovation contests and platforms like Innocentive, which is one of the good ones, something they've observed is something based on this thought they observe to be verifiably true. So based on the thinking of creativity and stuff, because you're trying to expose yourself to the broadest set of things, right? People who are most exposed to the set of things, people who exist at the intersection of many different non-adjacent domains of knowledge are at larger risk of having better ideas. The more non-adjacent domains you're exposed to, the more your brain goes, oh, it's a bit like this, a bit like this, a bit like this, a bit like this. And the pareidoilic function of your brain stops misfiring and seeing faces in jam jars and sees patterns in science, technology, innovation in the world that is useful and replicable, and that's awesome. And on incentive, it's true, right? People who are really good at molecular biology tend to not be the ones solving the most hardcore molecular biology problems because they're too tunnel visioned into that discipline. It's the guys in like chemistry and like physics who are slightly removed from that problem but know enough about the language to understand the problem. They go, oh, that's a bit like this. Richard Feynman, the physicist, used to love going to mess with with maths PhDs when he was doing his physics PhD, because he would solve their problems really fast. And they go really angry. It's like, oh, you just don't have this whole set of math tools that physicists have. You just don't have them. And I know them, and I can just do this. And like, oh. Adjacent fields are important. Fact idiot, that was that bit. Okay, good. Oh yeah, so one of the challenges of modern business is that you harness lots of subject matter experts together and try and make them collaborate and make money. Experts are really bad at collaborating and making money together because they're experts and they're really good at being the most smart person in their room, right? So harnessing many experts together and making them collaborate is genuinely a very hard thing to do. One solution to this problem is one that we've been working with a company in Mexico on, which is I want ideas that I can't have by myself, but I want to get them out of you without necessarily having to meet you or work with you. Ideally.
How do we come up with ideas? Ideas are new combinations of things, connecting stuff that wasn't connected before. We do this instinctively, all the time. We're limited by what we have in our heads, though. We can't connect with stuff we don't know. But what if we could see other people's connections? Our chances of coming up with the big eureka would expand like the universe. And this is precisely what Synapse does. It allows us to share our mental associations. You can navigate through connections made by people all over the world. And in fact, the more irrelevant they seem, the better. This isn't stealing ideas. You still have to do that bit yourself. But you'll be way outside the boring box. Then you can add your own associations for everyone else to see and improve the gene pool. Join Synapse. Think with other people's heads.
The gene pool. Yeah, that kind of thing. Makes sense, right? You want to have those ideas and get those bits plugged in. So one of the challenges of the fact idiot problem, of the tunnel vision problem, of the great specialization and fragmentation of our industry is that we get locked in little boxes. Famously, there were stories where, back in the day, a big ad agency, let's say, would get a brief to sell more flour, and it would come back with the idea to sell cakes. This is Mr. Kipling. It's a classic canonical example of innovation in advertising. The insight being, no one bakes anymore, everyone's quite busy, so sell cakes instead. They went, all right, and they sold cakes, and it was great, and that kind of stuff was cool, right? Being able to have that kind of answer to a solution requires you to think differently about what you do. Like, we take money from big companies, and we say, well, think about your problem. We'll outsource some of the thinking you're too busy in meetings to do, and we'll take it off your hands. You do the meetings, we'll do the thinking, we'll come back and share later. It's great, right? But sometimes assumptions about what attention is, assumptions about what content is, and assumptions about what we do and what creativity is and who can do it get codified into the business structure of an industry like advertising, where a department becomes called the creative department, and no one gets angry about that, which is bizarre to me, because I'm like, that's weird. Anyway. So, in olden terms then, these constructs existed in our overwhelming industries, right? There are companies, they make services or products, and we buy them. Consumers buy them. And then we wanted to reach lots of people at the same time and convince them to buy blah, blah, blah. History of advertising, you get the idea. Advertising exists, and then somehow in maybe sort of 40 years after advertising really got going in broadcast media, a guy called Stephen King, not the horror novelist, obviously, the British planner, the first planner, he invented planning, had this insight, and he said, I think something is happening, right? First of all, P&G carves off brand management as a separate function. We don't sell the products, we do brand management. It's a separate job inside P&G, which is a huge revelation for us, right? The beginning of marketing, in some ways, was the creation of brand manager jobs at P&G. That's how marketing was basically invented in the way we do it. Us. Not us, but us, right? And that was a big deal. And then Stephen King said, I think something is happening. And then, what is that? So, well, we interviewed all these lovely shopping people, at the time housewives, 1971, and we asked them about brands. And they kept telling us about these products. And they kept saying that this washing up liquid is very frumpy and old, and this washing up liquid is young and exciting. And we were like, what the fuck are you talking about? No. It's washing up liquid, isn't it? That's silly. But it occurred to us that the function of pareidolia that we discussed earlier, our ability to look at random data and see faces and see behavior and assume agency, when your laptop breaks and it's just the moment where you've got to present something to a big client and it loses the file, you know it's being that way on purpose. You ascribe agency to the world because your brain thinks in agent-based terms. And because of that, when you see washing up liquid, and you see that one, it seems old and frumpy. And you see that one, it seems young and happy. And you're like, I like the young and happy one. I like young and happy things. Or you don't want that. You know, whatever. That point is that brands are this idea of a product. And they're created in the intersection of the service and the product and the design and the packaging and the stories that we let our agencies tell for us in mass media and otherwise, advertising. And that was fine, because the world was relatively simple at the time. By which I mean the only way to communicate at scale was through mass media. Very restricted thing, right? If we allow ourselves to act like idiots and trap ourselves in a box called advertising, let's say, very silly things start to happen now because the world is complicated, but at least interesting, right? Let me give you an example from personal experience. This was the big brand campaign for HSBC last year. Now, Rosie and I have been on the road for nearly 3 years now, and about 6 months into that journey, this began to manifest on every air bridge in the world, except Thailand. They don't do it there. The air bridge buy by HSBC about 10 years ago was the single biggest media buy in history, $500 million nearly, and it was very smart, targeting high-value business travelers, on the actual last bit before you can turn your phone off. It's a really smart piece of media. And the campaign that launched with it was quite good, and I didn't hate it. Then this launched, and I hated it a lot. So he said, let's move forward, Faris. Stop being so cynical. Look at the future we're going to make together. I said, okay, fine. And I saw this ad, it's a bee. Now, in case you don't get this, it is quite, in more of your first native English speakers. No, wait for it. Yeah, wait for it. Bee part of the future. Now, the picture of the bee, the word bee, sounds a lot like the word bee. It's a homophone. In graphic terms, it's called a rebus. It's a picture of the word you're doing. This is the world's biggest bank and the world's biggest advertising agency, and that's what they came up with. So the bar isn't super high, you guys. I wouldn't, whenever I feel bad about myself in my career or in life, I just look at this and go, the bar isn't that high. It's not a big problem. Most of it's rubbish. However, cynicism aside, I said perhaps I'm being overly cynical, and perhaps, like most people who work in advertising, I spend too much time thinking about advertising and what it might mean rather than just ignoring it like I should do. That said, I said, okay, well look, people, maybe I shouldn't judge them on their prior behavior or their shitty ads. Maybe I should judge them on the sentiment, the emotion, what they're going to offer me. Maybe they'll invite me into a future that they will no longer be the banker of terrorist record or drug dealing record. They'll be like a useful partner in a global conversation about the emergence of a non or post-capitalist economy. Let's say that, right? And let's say, as the world's biggest bank with access to the world's most technology, they've deployed this technology and this overall global insight, looking at financial transactions in every country, in every part of the world, and looking at trends, and they've created a resource of insight and maps and models and reports and tools and magical things that I can't even imagine because I'm not a banker. And maybe they put them all here at this URL. Now, let's remember, I'm walking onto an air bridge. That's where these ads are. Famously, when you get onto a plane, you can just go straight onto the internet. No, wait, hang on. It's not that, is it? Okay, so not that. But as a business traveler with a smartphone, an internet-enabled smartphone device, and a deep curiosity about how annoying advertising could actually be, I went to this URL before getting onto the plane, and I wondered what it would be there. And I really had this caged, but veiled optimism. And I get to the site, and I go, wait a second, it's optimized for mobile, so that's kind of good, isn't it? Like, it's not bad, it doesn't always happen, it's not a terrible thing. And I said, what's going to... I said, oh, in the future, that's what it was called, good, yeah. Look at in the future, HSBC's brand campaign. What? What? That's weird. Why would that be there? Hang on a second. No, it couldn't possibly be. But it is. It's a list of PDFs of the ads themselves. Now that's a wonderful thing, isn't it? Here you go. Here's one of the ads you could look at on your phone if you want. Because let's all give up, really. To me, this is just... It's not evil in the same way as laundering narco-terror money is evil. It's just really, really obnoxious. And it's rude. Because the conversion rate of people who are stupid enough as I am to go to the annoying URL on my smartphone when I get onto a plane and to go to your site have done you such a huge favor. You should be paying me money at this point. Instead, you're giving me, how hubristic, how vainglorious to think that the thing I want most from a company is its ads as PDFs on my phone. That's the problem, right? It's not that it's bad, it's really bad, obviously, it's awful. It's not malicious, it's just thoughtless and arrogant and rude and shit. That's the problem, right? You've got a fat idiot working in creative going, my ads are great, everyone will love my ads, and you've got another fat idiot going, the user journey is really interesting. You've got mobile, and you see the poster, and you go on mobile and smartphone, blah, blah. Yeah, those two fat idiots come together, and they have a fat idiot idea. Anyway. So that's what I mean about user experience, right? To sort of wrap it all up a little bit. I don't mean UX designers are the future of planning and strategy and ads and that. I mean, it doesn't matter. It means that there are people at the other end of whatever pipe you are making, whatever thing you are doing, there are people, and you know what people are like because you are one, and so let's not treat them like, fat idiots or, idiots or, I don't know, just to go back to this, why would anybody do this? Why would anyone ever do that? Anyway. So, don't get locked in your box. That's a good thing. So I tried to push this kind of mode of thinking into an ad agency like Object a few years ago. And it ended up with me building another object, which was a more digital software making object, because the ad agency like Object just didn't want to make those sort of things, which is fine, it's okay. And I built this thing, because I used to be a planner or a brand strategist or something, right? And if you do any kind of strategic thing in your life, you have to make arrows and boxes and slides, right? You know that, yeah? Because that's kind of what it looks like. I know it's both facile and not, but anyway. So maybe a brand is a belief about how the world is. Maybe what a brand is now could be, I don't mean necessarily the purpose thing, I don't mean changing the world for better, I just mean changing the world. If you're a brand, you believe something about the world that you are willing to work towards to put into place to make money, I guess, right? And that's evinced most accurately through your products and services. Things that you do should be a representation of how you believe the world exists, right? The opportunity you see is based on that. How your company behaves should be based on what your brand believes, right? It should be the same thing. Increasingly, I think, and this is not in this bit, it's an evolution, the fourth dimension of this slide, I think how companies pay taxes is one of the most important branding tools that they currently have. And most of them use it really badly. Because they don't think of it as a branding tool, they think of it as something only finance sees. And increasingly, finance doesn't see it, we all see it, and we go, hang on a second, Facebook paid what? $200 of corporate tax in England in the last 4 years on $4 billion of revenue? It just feels like as someone who lives there that my trains are shitty, and the NHS is dying, and that maybe pay some taxes, basically. Yeah. That would be good. That's a really good point, but that really just bugs me, that whole thing bugs me. So it feels like the palette that we operate within to some degree involves messing with companies and getting them to make certain kinds of things based on a certain kind of belief, and then communicating those certain things and those beliefs in certain ways. And those ways used to be advertising. Increasingly, people talk about content as a separate thing than advertising, which I think is interesting and valid. To me, advertising is about you, content's not about you. To me, advertising, you pay people to watch, content's something they choose to watch, they're different ideas. It's getting blurry. I think over here, we have a sort of different way of thinking about promotion, not narrative, not symbolic, but action-based. Human beings respond well to reciprocity and to action. Seeing nice actions makes you like somebody more. Babies that see, babies or like infants that see dolls in fake situations, dolls that give help to other dolls, they prefer over the dolls that don't give help. We like seeing nice behavior and we respond to it really well. So brands that do nice things in the world, in whatever way, or just things in the world are interesting to us. That's about them, see? Things are about them, actions, advertising, things about us. Tools, give me something that makes my life better. What can you do that isn't your product or service that makes my life somehow better? And often that becomes an app, but now there's too many apps. I don't want any more apps anymore, I'm done with it. Just done. I mean, it's true though, I have an app for every service company I have a very brief relationship with, like once a month, once every 6 months I have to have an app for, I don't know, United or whatever. And now my phone's full of apps and I don't want that, so that's a problem. Someone can fix it. Stories, experiences, beliefs, that kind of stuff. So that's the planning version. Do you want to see the creative version? It's more fun, it has music and stuff. All right. What does it?
When BMW was launching its first ever electric vehicle, the BMW Active E, it was breaking into a category in which it had almost no presence. So instead of approaching the launch in a traditional way, we completely reinvented what a car launch was. The traditional ad campaign was replaced by an experiment in collective engineering, one we called Activate the Future. In the first phase of the experiment, we created a conversation with our target, not about a car, but about a topic we knew they were passionate about, the future of mobility. We partnered with a host of thought leaders to discuss the topic in a series of short films called Wherever You Want to Go. As this broader conversation began to resonate, we then moved into the second phase of our experiment. We created the BMW Evolve app to directly counter the biggest barrier with this new product sector, range anxiety. 90% of US drivers drive less than 100 miles a day, and instead of telling that to consumers, we showed them. The app tracked actual driving habits and highlighted the benefits a driver would experience if they switched to an electric vehicle. Then, on an accompanying site, bmwactivatethefuture.com, drivers could also create manual trips, sync mobile app data, and use the EV dashboard to see how switching to an EV can save time, money, and CO2 emissions. As anticipation for the launch of the Active E grew, we created a video to serve as a rallying cry for the upcoming field trial, drive application signups, and introduce the term Electronaut as a title for our Active E drivers. The video was distributed through BMW's social channels, targeted blogs, and the Active E website. Hand-raiser signups immediately spiked. The video also introduced our BMW Electronaut iPad app, designed to recruit drivers at auto shows and dealers. It helped a range of users, from those unfamiliar with EVs to those who wanted more information on the Active E, determine if they were ready to become a BMW Electronaut. Those who were could apply for a vehicle right from the app. Once the reservation process opened, BMW received twice as many applicants as there were cars, within just the first 9 hours. Within 2 months, every car was sold. But that was just the beginning. Phase 3 is the field trial itself, and throughout the experience, BMW will broadcast the Electronaut stories to give insights into the electric vehicle lifestyle and inspire future BMW EV drivers. And the data collected along the way, from the BMW Evolve app to driving habits of Electronauts, will be used by BMW to inform its next generation of EVs.
Yeah. So that's some work I did, I worked on, I was involved in, whatever, at my last big ad agency that made things like that. So I've been thinking about this recently, about how you do this sort of stuff, right? And how to avoid the fat idiot problem. And I don't have a solution for it exactly, but I've been thinking a lot about this idea. I'm sort of calling it full stack strategy because I'm, enamored of technology metaphors because I'm a liberal arts major, like the guy from Slack. But what I mean is so it feels that the industry underwent a great fragmentation, that things became complicated as the mediascape expanded, And that level of complexity required specialists that farmed off different kinds of agencies, providers. So we have from McKinsey through Accenture, through a creative agency, through innovation agency, media and PR. We have all these different specialists that field strategy. Because the function of strategy at an agency level, or at a vendor level, or at a partner level, is to acquire budget for your company, right? No one tells you this, but it's true. That's what you're for. And I know it sounds mercenary, but it's not, right? The function of strategy is to create the perception of a lack of risk in an inherently risky endeavor. No matter how you do it or where you do it, I'm making you a picture, a narrative of the world as I think it will be, and I want you to give me money for it. If you're a client, or you're internal, or you're developing new products for Diageo, it's the same exact problem. I think this with a certain level of risk, and I want money for it, right? So strategy is about getting money, essentially. So when all these things fragmented, what clients began to face, and I mean big brands in the world, began to face all these strategists from different companies that were very earnest and very smart, no doubt, and great, but they were inherently allied to their own way of thinking, because that's what they do. And if you're a PR strategist, the likelihood is your ideas will look a lot like PR when they come out, right? It's just inevitable. It's a cognitive and business model bias. So I think this idea of full stack strategy is that I don't need to know enough about each level of the stack. If I'm an engineer, I'm a full stack engineer, right? I don't feel the hard code databases or build user experience interfaces. I have to know enough about how each one works together to appropriately allocate resource and money to each level when it needs it the most, to build a solution for clients, customers, whatever, that's best. If I love building really cool user experiences, I'll overinvest in the interface. The buttons will be too shiny, there'll be too many reflective, blah, whatever, on the bar. If I love really hardcore databases, I will do those things and I'll overweight those, right? So a strategist's job is to not overweight that. It's to appropriately weight resource and money to each level of the stack, so it's the best of the whole. And increasingly, I think that's what I think we are trying to get to, essentially, which is that I like making cool stuff, but I want to be cognizant of the full stack before I jump into ads or content or interfaces, you know? Probably. Anywho, if you want to expose yourself to the things that I expose myself to, and you can, go to strandsofgenius.com. We have a newsletter each week where we blast you with the 10 things that have stimulated us. It's a very satisfying experience. I don't say this for myself, I mean it is for me too, but our readers are very kind. They email us a lot and say, hey, this is fun. I'm like, I know, we reply, it's weird. But that's good. And that's basically I think I'm done. Yeah, that's good. So the last thing I'll do is thank you for your time, and obviously for your attention. It'd be remiss otherwise, since I've spent an hour or however long it's been, telling you that attention is quite important and valuable. Thank you for yours, I do appreciate it. Most of you seem mostly on board, so that's a win for me. Some smiles from the gallery over here where my friends and family are. And I will finish if you let me, because I think some of you got the book as part of this dealio. So I'll play you the trailer for my book. Not only do I have a trailer for myself, I have a trailer for my book as well. Isn't that great? The modern world is wonderful, isn't it? And I thank you, and there you go. Thanks a lot.